We've got some tea leaf reading from the Supreme Court today, with justices seeming to be leaning towards siding with President Trump in a case that could really expand how much power he has as president. The court's hearing arguments today over whether the president can fire a member of the Federal Trade Commission without cause. Okay, whether he can fire somebody from the FTC. So what, right? Why should you care? Well, this is important because the thinking goes this would basically get rid of the concept of agencies like the FTC being independent. It would be a break from this 90-year-old precedent known as Humphrey's executor. Legal seminar, gang, but hang with us here because Chief Justice John Roberts questioned if that precedent actually still makes sense. Listen.
Humphrey's executor is just a dried husk of whatever people used to think it was, because in the opinion itself, it described the powers of the agency it was talking about, and they're vanishingly insignificant.
I want to bring in our Supreme Court reporter, Lawrence Hurley, who's joining us now. Professor Hurley, good to see you. Lay it out for us here, because what's so interesting, setting aside kind of the legal jargon here in super plain English, if the court does side with President Trump here, it would, in essence, go a long way towards giving him that more muscular presidency that he has long sought.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the plain English part is not so easy when you're dealing with this kind of alphabet soup of federal agencies. But these agencies have huge impacts on people's daily lives. You know, they deal with things like labor relations and they deal with product safety. There's all kinds of obscure agencies that have broad powers, and they were set up by Congress to be independent from the political pressures of the day. And if the president wins this case, that kind of goes away, right? The president has a lot more authority over those agencies, and it might not even be the end of it. There might be more things to come that will make them further under the control of the president and less likely to be protected from those issues of the day.
To be clear, the court has not decided yet. They'll make that decision down the road, but you can often get a sense of things from the oral arguments. Certainly not unanimous the way this went today. We heard from some of the more liberal justices too, right? That's right. The liberal justices, as they have been in quite a few cases recently, are kind of in the position of sort of defending the status quo, right? That's been around for 90 years, as you mentioned. And so they're saying, like, Congress wanted to have experts running these agencies, you know, people who really understood the kind of nitty-gritty of these issues. And we can hear Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson kind of make that point during the argument today.
Having a president come in and fire all the scientists and the doctors and the economists and the PhDs and replacing them with loyalists and people who don't know anything is actually not in the best interest of the citizens of the United States.
So you can see there, you know, she's kind of, and the other liberal justices, Justice Elena Kagan, Justice Sonia Sotomayor, they're really pushing hard to try and defend the system that we've had for decades. But, you know, they're in the minority and they're probably not going to win.
And we'll find out if they do or do not, coming up before the term ends in June, right? What else are you looking for in the next couple of months here? Well,
I mean, another big case that's coming up, right, is the sort of related to this case today. It's about President Trump's attempt to fire the Lisa Cook from the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, right? So that's also kind of an independent agency. But the Supreme Court...
You say kind of. The Fed would say totally independent.
Well, exactly.
Right?
And the Supreme Court has already indicated that it thinks maybe it is different to these other agencies because it didn't allow Trump to actually remove her from office, but it did allow Trump to remove the FTC commissioner. So you can see some differences there.
Super interesting. Lawrence Hurley, keep him busy on your beat. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.